Okay, so there's, okay, so there's John. Okay,
He has you up on screen now.
okay, got it. Thank you.
So, John, everything's cool?
Yeah, no,
Hello? Can't hear you. Hello? Can't hear you at all. Can't hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Can't hear you. No sound.
Okay, the tech person's in the room helping John.
Okay, so maybe I should just stay on so that that's the only way to
Yeah, that's fine.
communicate. Yeah, because I can't hear John at all.
Okay, yeah, he's fixing it right as we speak. It's one of those, you were right about starting early. It's everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. So, but it's all being fixed.
Okay. So do you mind if I stay on the phone since it's the only way of communicating?
Yeah, it's fine. I
Okay.
mean, just right now they have to talk to each other, so that they can't talk to you.
Okay. Yeah. Just so we've never, of course, tried out the videos or anything, right?
Yeah, John he just tried out all three videos. They're all, well, two videos and only his audio, and they're all fine. And
Okay.
he fully edited all three of them.
All right. So they are able.
What, John?
Yeah, that's what I figured. I heard him on the phone. So we don't know if it works. Anyway, we don't know if it works on Zoom. That's the bad news. But in any event,
That's not important because Mimi already has heard them, so it's the audience.
well, it's really important. But in any event, it's now.
No, of course we would prefer. Yes. More isolated.
And now I can't get. Now I'm getting nothing. Oh God. Well, I can't hear anything. And it says you're screen sharing.
Sorry?
It says you're screen sharing, but I can't hear anything. I can only hear you through the phone.
oh, can you speak for our tech person? What's your name again? Marcus. Speak for Marcus.
Yes, I'm speaking. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Now we ask her to speak.
I have been speaking. I'm speaking on my phone now, and I am speaking otherwise, and my audio is on, but I don't know if you can hear. Sure can hear you folks.
Okay, well, the good news is the fallback, if anything fails in the Zoom, is we'll put the phone next to the mic and it'll be fine.
No, it won't. But anyway, all
I'm
right.
trying to fix it right now so the Zoom will work.
Okay. Well, the workshop's already started formally.
No, there's only a couple people here.
All right.
Video works, audio works.
It's just because I'm already just all prepared to show. So yeah, that's you know.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
That's the, you need to write. All right, now let's see. Can you? Oh, that's coming through. Can you speak again?
Mimi, testing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello. Again, I've got my phone on, so as well, but I still don't hear anything from you folks on.
Oh, gosh.
And you're in a screen sharing mode.
In progress.
John, can you say something? Can you
Oh, can you hear me?
hold on? I'm going to turn off my phone for the moment. Wait, say something.
Hello, this is test
Yes.
number 400.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear?
Okay, I'm turning off my phone. All right, now let's see. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and I'm only you're in a screen sharing mode, so I can't even, all I can get is a tiny little picture of you rather than the whole screen.
That's a good point.
That's better.
Then we're gonna view speaker, and then we're gonna pull. Okay, so now she's big, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you say like what you had for breakfast?
Yes, this is Jumping Jack Flash. And
We're getting a little bit of call. I guess because she's still on that phone right there. Can you turn off the phone, hon?
the phone's off.
Okay.
Now it's off. Now try again.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
Testing.
It's great.
Oh, lovely. It's not
The
too soft.
lighting
Not
is very good there.
okay.
You must
All
have had
right.
the camera crew come in.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. So you see me, right?
I see your hat.
You see my hat. That's it? Okay.
And your glasses. I don't see. Now I see you. Yes.
Okay. So we got that. We got this.
Hey, Stahamili. I wish I was there.
I wish you were too.
Uh,
I was shocked that you weren't gonna be here. But of
oh,
course,
it's just
we
legal
have a few
aid,
things to do.
too much legal work.
I know, dear.
Okay, it's this.
Listen, when you work for the people, that's what happens, right?
Well, right now things are really bad with the immigrations. I mean, we're just drowning.
I know.
And in New York, you'll appreciate the Daily News and the New York Times, of course, is doing the most horrible red baiting and terror and Muslim baiting of Mandami, who looks like he could really beat Cuomo, and they're just like slaughtering him. So disgusting.
Okay. That shows he's being effective.
Yeah.
All right, we got one. 6 people. Okay.
So I wonder if people are having a hard time finding this.
Well, they have a pretty sophisticated app and whole system for directions and, hopefully. And we did have 40 people who signed up, so we'll see.
Okay. Now I need the run sheet. Is this the run sheet? Yes.
Really?
So thank you all for coming, and we'll be starting in a few minutes, just after we smooth out a few more things. But we really appreciate your attendance, and we're going to get started very, very soon. Sorry for the delay. Sure.
I'm really hard of hearing. I got hearing aids the best I can do.
John, will I be able to hear?
Hang on one second. Mimi, there's a person from the audience who's talking with us. So
Okay, I just can't hear anything else. I just wanted to let
can
you
hear
know.
me?
I barely.
Hold on, let's try to fix this.
How about now? Can you hear?
If Bob says something,
Can you hear me now? Is this any
yes, I
better?
can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, good. So John, you're gonna keep the mic there?
I guess.
Okay, but let me try Mili's mic. Can you hear that okay, Mimi?
No,
I can hear it fine.
Oh, that's
So if
good.
you please use a mic, I'd be really.
We're
appreciative.
definitely gonna use the mic. The problem is our friend who's on Zoom, she can't hear.
Well, I don't know
So,
what to do.
Oh, use this one,
which one?
the one right here.
No, this is Mimi can't hear.
All the time.
The people in the room can hear it, but Mimi can't. Okay, so now I'm switching Mimi to the other mic. So you're good on this mic,
Does that work better?
Mimi?
No,
can you say testing 1, 2, 3 or something?
I'm asking you, Mimi, if you can hear me.
Yes, now I can. Thank you.
Okay, so John, there's something wrong with the other mic. We just won't use it.
But try and use it because I'm trying to adjust it.
Oh, okay. Oh, right now. All right. So John's testing the other mic. Testing 1, 2, 3. Mimi, can you hear me on this mic now?
Barely.
Barely.
Okay, so, we can hear you.
Yeah, but if Mimi can't, why don't we just skip this mic and use the one that works?
Okay.
And we'll just pass it back and forth.
Okay.
It's not complicated.
we hope. What are we signing up for?
Oh,
I think you'd want to be on the mailing list.
yeah, sir, it's just to have you on our. It's, so you can get our email notices.
Yeah, so we can just be in touch.
Yeah, John, I can't hear anything.
What about now? Mimi, can you hear now?
Now I can hear you.
All right, so that's the mic that will pass back and forth between Stomili and me.
About this mic, can you?
Oh, right, yeah, now we want to test a separate mic for the audience. So Stomili, say something, please.
Can we hear it on this mic?
Did you hear that, Mimi?
No,
You can't hear me on this.
I can't hear you.
I think it's just the computer that she's speaking at it. So I think
Talk again, stop.
Can you hear me on this mic?
I think what's happening is that she's using, or the computer is just using the mic from the internal mic.
The internal
So-
computer
So
mic.
she's
Uh-huh.
hearing this one because it's closer to the computer.
I see. Okay, so then Stomili and I can just switch places. So that we'll be physically closer to the computer. That's fine.
Are you kidding? It's crazy.
Well, it's crazy, but we gotta make do, so let's make it work. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We're just smoothing out some glitches and we will start very quickly.
Do you mind doing, what's the audio that, oh, it's just not coming up. That's funny.
Should I get our friend again? No?
So the speaker,
So the speaker is perfect. Use the speaker as is. The problem is that for the microphone, the external systems are not coming up with microphones, which is why you can't hear it.
what about Teams audio?
Teams, I don't know, is this? Here, so it's the problem is that their system is not coming up for on your computer.
Okay,
So I'm not sure why, but that's why she can only hear you from the computer.
Okay, so there's something with the HDMI that's not working. Okay. Because it seems like HDMI should be able to handle sound.
Well,
no?
yeah. The
She
so
can't,
the speaker is connected, but the microphone is not connected. So
Brainy.
internally, she can only hear what's being spoken from the computer still. So like if I
Oh, these mics won't be able to feed into the computer.
okay.
ever?
No, yeah, that won't,
Oh.
that's
So
not
she'll
possible.
only be able to hear you guys when she's close to the computer.
I see. Okay. Okay. How to integrate all of this in the show.
Okay. If you since you do have a mic right here, it does mean that people just have to cycle in when they're trying to speak or have like a designated person that's just like always speaking back.
We're almost done figuring out the text, so while we're waiting, why don't we very, very briefly.
And if there's questions from the audience, they can come up and ask it. Like you can just switch that mic, turn it
Turn around.
and then like people should still be able to hear.
And I can just lift this up out of here, the
Yeah, you
cradle,
can take that all the way up there.
if need be.
Yeah, if need be, it's.
Okay. And then what is this? This is on off?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Marcus.
Hi, my name is Imran. I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts, not affiliated with any specific organization. I just am a family friend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Eliza? Elsa. Okay, thank you.
Brainies. We.
I think we can start anytime soon. To be here, switch back and forth, physically move.
Hi, everybody, I'm Brandon, from our PM, and turn on the video quickly. We're gonna do a brief video. Mike Zupan, retired union officer, retired union officer, Chicago trained, presently a Florida resident. Okay, thank you, everyone, and welcome. This is Empire's End, Press Freedom and the Anti-Fascist, Anti-Racist Fight. And it's organized by the Ida B. Wells Media Defense Coalition. Again, my name is Bob Lederer, and I'll be co-moderator today along with my dear colleague, Amelie Mapp. We started this in January as an ad hoc group of program producers from the Peace and Justice Pacifica Radio Network and affiliate stations around the country, along with other community media advocates. We've been meeting on Zoom since then to develop a vehicle that can respond to the rising tide of attacks on freedom of the press and closely related attacks on political speech. We believe that independent nonprofit media must be fully protected from government repression, political retaliation, and corporate influence, especially when it's amplifying anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, and working class voices. People's media must not be criminalized, defended, or defunded, or delegitimized for empowering communities or challenging entrenched power. Public media must be racially inclusive and community-led at every level. That's content creation, production, distribution, and governance, to ensure that those historically silenced are central to shaping the narratives that affect their lives. Only through such democratic and inclusive media can we build a society rooted in justice, equal rights, and collective liberation. Our first action was to draft and send a letter to the Pacifica Network leadership, signed by 130 people, asking them to take a strong public stance defending the First Amendment and laying out our principles for the coalition that we're forming. And you can get that text on with the QR code on the flyer on the table. We applaud Pacifica for adopting a statement denouncing press censorship and championing freedom of political expression. But to truly bring its declaration to life, it must engage its community of listeners and staff and act in an even broader coalition around a bold action agenda. As Frederick Douglass famously stated, power concedes nothing without a demand. Pacifica and all of us should recognize that diversity, equity, and inclusion must be fully integrated into media structures and practices. Later this summer, we're going to host an online and in-person national Zoom forum to share the history of people's media and shape its role in defending the First Amendment and press freedom. Invited speakers include Chris Hedges, Mumia Abu-Jamal, and a representative of the Palestinian Journalists Association, among others. Please sign up for our low-traffic e-list to get details on this and our other activities and meetings. And just a little about myself. I'm a journalist and activist who's been fighting racism, imperialism, and patriarchy for over 40 years, including a lot of work to end repression and to free political prisoners like Mumia Abu-Jamal, from whom you'll hear shortly. And I've also been a producer at Pacifica Radio's WBAI station in New York for 35 years. And I'm currently, along with Stahamili, a member of the Out FM collective, producing a weekly progressive intersectional LGBTQIA TS plus show archived at outfm.org. And there's flyers on the table. I've also served on a local station board and Pacifica National Board. So the goal of today's workshop, along with our affinity group tomorrow, which is at 8 p.m. room to be announced, is to begin educating progressives and seek your ideas, participation in building a broad national coalition to fight attacks from whatever source on freedom of the press and political speech. And as part of that, we seek to build a rapid response network, which we'll talk more about later. Samili?
You guys can hear me on this one, right?
Come over and let her
Oh,
be
yeah,
over
why
here.
don't you sit?
No, I'm good.
No.
Can
I don't-
Mimi hear?
Mimi, can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Not Stahamili.
Sorry.
You messed it up.
Let me move over.
Okay, so,
Beautiful.
hi, Mimi.
Hi,
So,
comrade.
heard we are comrades from Out FM. My name is Stahamili Map, and Stahamili is Kiswahili for patience. So I hope to be able to do some of that today. I am a co-producer with these gentlemen, these brothers at Out FM, and you heard Bob say, well, give all of our bona fides around what Out FM does. Today, we're presenting a diversity of voices from the world of journalism who can address some of the issues we've talked about at various vantage points. We're not looking simply at the world we come from, which is community radio. So WBAI, part of Pacifica, is non-commercial, community-supported community radio. But we're casting, we're casting and looking at a much broader net for all types of media and journalists: print, broadcast, web, and social media. And importantly, we don't detach freedom from the press from the determination of progressive journalists to air the voices of movements of social justice and voices of oppressed groups, both here and worldwide. That includes, especially in this moment of heightened craziness that's going on, demonizing our folks and people of color, immigrants, LGBTQ plus all the other letters, people, and especially trans people, because we're seeing what's happening right now before our eyes, as well as the most viciously attacked on the planet today, the Palestinian people of both Gaza and West Bank. We also note that ICE has made clear that part of why they're seeking to deport some immigrant student leaders of Palestinian solidarity is their educational and organizing statements to the media on that issue. In that spirit, today's speakers will be Dr. Ibrahim Rabaya, and he's the manager of the Palestinian Media Coordination Group, founder, editor-in-chief of 2 Palestinian publications, and a political science professor at Berzit University in the occupied West Bank. Next speaker will also be Alex Franson, and he's a journalism program manager with Free Press Action and leader of their coalition called the Media Power Collaborative. He's also former Boston Globe correspondent who worked with the Quakers on social justice advocacy. Then we have our esteemed colleague, Mimi Rosenberg, a producer and host of social media and labor programs on WBAI in New York for 56 years. She's been on the air. She's a longtime legal aid lawyer and activist in many movements. And last but not least, we have our brother, Mumia Abu Jamal, brilliant Black journalist and one of this country's longest serving political prisoners. He will give us an important history lesson on the FBI's role in subverting honest journalism as part of its efforts to destroy progressive movements, particularly Black liberation movements. And we are definitely leaving time today for your participation and brainstorming. Folks like you will be at the heart and soul of successful efforts to fight for our rights. We also want to encourage all of you who attend to follow up with our affinity group workshop tomorrow at 8 p.m., where we'll spend more time seeking your ideas and involvement. We want to come out of this conference with the beginnings of a broad coalition that extends beyond the world of progressive community radio, which is pretty much what we do. And all of you are the perfect people to help us realize that goal. So now I'll hand it off to Mimi Rosenberg, who will give an introduction to our Palestinian media person. Mimi?
Thank you, my dear sibling. By way of framing the issues addressed by our first presenter, let me say it's imperative that in the face of systemic censorship and the targeted killing of Palestinian journalists, acts that not only silence truth, but erase lives, that international advocates for press freedom and human rights mobilize legal and legislative and political protections to ensure the Palestinian liberation struggle is told in full, unflinching truth. The voices of those risking everything to report it must be amplified, safeguarded, and never forgotten. And it may very well be responsible for saving the soul of this nation. Dr. Ibrahim Rabaiya is the manager of the Palestinian Media Coordination Group and an assistant professor of political science and international relations at Berzit University. He served as editor-in-chief of Al Hayat newspaper until July 2025 and editor-in-chief of the journal Palestinian Affairs until the fall of 2024, with 20 years of experience in local and international media as a reporter, editor, columnist, and analyst. And now really the courageous truth-telling, filled with samud, the Palestinian, the Arabic word for resilience and continuity and life. We listen to Dr. Ibrahim Rabaiya.
Thank you for this opportunity. And when we talk about the Palestinian media, actually, I can say that we are passing a very, very difficult time. I am Ibrahim Rabaya. I am the director of the Palestinian Media Coordination Group, which includes the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate, the Publishers Association, and the Radio Stations Association, besides the Palestinian or is it media development?
Do you want to see her answer?
Since October 8th of 2023, we lost around 226 media workers in Gaza and the West Bank. And actually, this is the most difficult.
Oh, sorry. If you go share screen, can you share this? Share some. You'll be able to see everybody. And then, oh, is this the same video?
No, no, this is the next video.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Hold on, we're getting there.
You know, bear with us, folks. Just a lot of tech to coordinate for this workshop.
Yeah.
This was recorded from the office on West Bank, Palestine.
Double click.
So now.
No, he's back.
On media. Most of these colleagues are from the West Bank, and most were arrested due to their media work, their maybe media products, and also their activities on social media platforms. So when we talk about the administrative detention, this is what is the situation since October 8th. 2023, and mainly based on the opinion due to the Israeli restrictions, the military restrictions mainly, which is targeting the journalists themselves, the media outlets, by preventing specific outlets from working in the West Bank, in Gaza, and Israel. For example, we talk about Al Jazeera, and also preventing international media from entering Gaza Strip, and also with more restrictions on the West Bank these days. The BGS have reported also unprecedented rates of torture and humiliation against the colleagues who were arrested in this period. We talk also about the sector itself, the media sector itself in Gaza. Now the media sector in Gaza is completely destroyed. We lost around 82% of our media outlets in Gaza. And for example, the publishers and the radio stations, their early estimated losses are around $125 million. This included institutions, buildings, instruments, equipments, everything. Also, the displacement forced the media workers to move from the north, where 85% of the media outlets were concentrated, to the south, where there is no infrastructure. So we established, and mainly the PGS with the UNESCO and the International Federation, the IFJ, they established the Solidarity Centers. It is a place where is the basic needs of journalists available to work there. These places even are not safe because there is monitors, censorship for the media production which comes from Gaza and even from the West Bank. Also, the PGS worked on supporting the journalists themselves. We are talking about around 4,000 members supported by personal needs. This is their priorities, including tents, including food, and what they need in this very difficult situation. Also, we are talking about the situation in the West Bank. The situation in the West Bank is more complicated because we have two kinds of censorship. The first is the military by the Israeli forces, by the Israeli military institutions. And this is dynamic, they change everything, and they bought some legal framework which can be translated or clarified in several ways. So they have this kind of wide legal framework to use it as they want. So there is no clear restrictions for the Palestinian journalists. The second is the informal censorship, which comes from the settlers and their institutions, their platforms, and the hate speech comes against journalists in name mainly. And we recorded in the Palestinian media institutions several cases by attacking and targeting Palestinian journalists. In the recent was attacking Assam Rimawi. Assam Rimawi is one of the prominent photographers here in Palestine, and he was covering settlers' attack against one of the villages around Ramallah, and they know him because they shared his photo, and there is a hate speech against him. So when they saw him, they targeted him and they broke his head. He was in the ICU in the hospital for a week, and this was one of the recent and difficult cases. Some said he has never witnessed such kind of violations, such kind of systematic targeting. He's covering the situation in the West Bank for the last 20 years at least, but he's saying there is kind of escalation and unprecedented escalation against Palestinian journalists in the West Bank. This is not the only case and not the only situation. There was a targeting for journalists in several areas in the West Bank, such as Jenin and Tulkarem, in different occasions, because there is Israeli operation against Jenin since last January, and there was systematic targeting for specific journalists there, preventing journalists from entering specific areas such as Jenin camp, Tulkarem camp, Nur Shams camp, and also arresting journalists there in the field for hours or days. Also, we are talking about, as I said, Al Jazeera before, preventing the journalists there in Al Jazeera from working in the field, not only the media outlet itself, also the workers. But as I said, now we are talking about the AI era. So there is a systematic, kind of censorship for the Palestinian journalists and the content by AI. And for the last weeks, the spokesman of the Israeli army was talking about 3,000 recorded cases based on the social media, content for Palestinians, including journalists, for the Israeli army. And each time they come to the house of the journalist and they arrest him from his house, no worry, where is him in area A, B, C, in any city. So they reach anywhere in the West Bank, in Gaza now, and arrest the Palestinian journalists. Also, there was reports about using AI for the systematic targeting, and I think Human Rights Watch recorded this before. They talk about Lavender AI app and other apps to maybe reach intellectuals and several maybe activists in Gaza, including journalists. And this kind of systematic targeting, as I said, the PGS recorded. There is high rates now for the Palestinian journalists of maybe fears from the protection. They need protection. They need support, international support. They need code of ethics and more pressure on the Israeli authorities to maybe implement the international laws, the international maybe codes of protecting journalists in such situation in the West Bank and Gaza. Thank you.
Mimi Rosenberg.
Well, I want to just say two things. I can't help, but there's a good piece of breaking news, and that is that courts once again have ordered the release of Mahmoud Khalil, who is the Columbia graduate student who was picked up, abducted, and has been held in Louisiana as a result of being an intrepid humanist who speaks for the Palestinian people, which he did on the Columbia campus. So we will see if once again the government administration acknowledges the rule of law and the authority of the courts to release Mahmoud Khalil. I also want to say that we're doing this in this presentation, which is very modestly given because you were listening to a former political prisoner, which is the case of virtually every Palestinian that has any community involvement or simply believes in the self-determination of the Palestinian people, and no less Dr. Ibrahim Rabiah. And we do this and bring you this in the name and to raise up once again the great Palestinian American journalist, one of the famous journalists in the world community, Shireen Abu Akleh, who was targeted for killing by an elite unit of the Israeli Defense Forces. And there was then the cover-up by the US, the Biden administration, as to who specifically wielded the armaments that targeted and killed her in the city of Jenin. With that, I want to say the Palestinian Media Development Fund is a national initiative for the Palestinian Media Coordination Group in partnership with the International Journalists Association and UNESCO. It aims to create a national hub where the national priorities of the media sector in Palestine are presented collectively, and the international partners help the Palestinian media to achieve these goals. Currently, the Palestinian media is suffering to survive under the genocidal wars, pressure, and the ongoing suppression. Thus, the Palestinian Media Development Fund, will try to work on sustainability for the West Bank and reconstruction for Gaza media. And if you think there is any kind of exaggeration as to what we present as to the suppression and censorship of a genocide, just yesterday, I was in the process of broadcasting from Gaza, from one of the aid sites, when our guest we heard some noise and so on, and our guest was one of the people who was shot. And this happened on air. And of course, the connection then went blank. I am pleased to say that I at least have found information that he has survived, although he is gravely wounded. But once again, in the effort to get aid, I have to say that there were more than 50 yesterday Palestinians that were assassinated. And Mike Ferna, one of the veterans for peace who was on a 40-day fast in front of the U.S. mission to the UN, said it best, saying that in Nazi Germany, in the death camps, they led people to the showers. What is happening in Gaza now is they are leading people to the aid sites. I think you get the analogy. So free Palestine, and very much thanks to the education we just received from Dr. Ibrahim Rabaiya. So thank you for that. I couldn't help but go on a little bit longer, given the genocide and ethnocide of our siblings in Palestine.
And indeed, free Palestine. Thank you so much, Mimi, for that framing and background. Let's now turn from the international to the domestic media scene. And I'm going to introduce the next speaker, Alex Franson. He's the journalism program manager at Free Press Action, where he works to advance policy change to support local news. He also facilitates the Media Power Collaborative, a national coalition of community and media leaders calling for bold public investment in local journalism and civic information needs. He previously worked at the Friends Committee on National Legislation, a Quaker lobbying group on Capitol Hill, and as a correspondent at the Boston Globe. Alex and his group, Free Press Action, were originally going to co-organize today's workshop with us, but unfortunately he was no longer able to do that. But you can sign up for Alex's email list on the website mediapowercollab.org, or you can email him at afransen, F-A-R-N-D-S-E-N, at freepress.net. And now we'll hear from Alex. Sorry, just bear with us a minute. We're almost there.
Hey everyone. Sorry I can't join you in person in Atlanta, but I'm really glad I at least had the chance to share this recording message with you all. My name is Alex Franson. I'm the journalism program manager at Free Press Action, where I work with community leaders and lawmakers to advance strong, equity-driven policies that support local news and civic information. I also help lead a national coalition called the Media Power Collaborative, a network of more than 250 media leaders, journalists, and community leaders who are working hand in hand to shape a policy agenda for journalism that puts people and communities first. And today, I really want to share one big idea with you. If you care about justice, democracy, or equity, you have a stake in the future of local journalism. Now, here's why I say that. At Free Press Action, our work really starts from one central truth. Local news is a true public good. Like clean water, safe roads, and good schools, it benefits everyone. And when it disappears, the harm ripples out across entire communities. I don't need to tell you all this, but right now we're in the midst of a full-blown local news crisis. The collapse of advertising, the rise of platforms, the waste of corporate consolidation, a totally gutted newsrooms, while the community-rooted independent outlets that are closest to their communities are often left on the outside looking in, barely getting enough money to survive on a day-to-day basis. This is not just a media story. It is a democracy story, because we know that when communities lose trust in local news, voter turnout drops, civic engagement drops, corruption rises, people become more isolated, misinformation rushes in to fill the voids that emerged. These really are structural problems, and they call for structural solutions. Now, totally fair question. Why should you, as someone in this room who cares about climate, about housing, racial justice, education, whatever your issue might be, why should you care about local news policy? I would offer this, because none of our work exists in a vacuum. Every movement relies on people being able to stay informed, connected, and civically engaged. If no one is covering your community, people can't access local information in the language they speak, or if misinformation is filling the voids that emerged, your issue loses visibility and your community loses power. We know that strong local media isn't just a nice to have thing. It's really essential core infrastructure for every justice movement that's represented here. Now, the good news here is that amid all the federal chaos, more and more state lawmakers are taking interest in supporting local news. One really promising idea that we've been organizing behind is this concept of public grant making for community media. Essentially, public funding to support local news distributed through independent, community-rooted grant making bodies. For instance, we helped launch the New Jersey Civic Information Consortium. This is the first state-level public fund of its kind in the country to support local news. And in just a few short years, it's already helped immensely in expanding coverage in underserved communities, training local journalists, and funding community-led storytelling. With the success of New Jersey, we're seeing more and more states take a real interest in this idea of public investment in local news. But, like many other issues, we should be clear. There are powerful forces that are working to move us in the opposite direction in these political debates. At the federal level, the current administration has launched a tax on public media, with threatened funding for NPR and PBS, it's often a lifeline for communities who otherwise have their newspapers wiped out, and overall signaled support for policies that would funnel more money towards the corporate media giants at the expense of nonprofit, community-rooted outlets we know we need more of. This is not just a funding fight we find ourselves in. It's a fight over who gets to shape the public conversation, whose voices are heard, and whose voices are erased. We cannot afford to sit this one out. Because really, here's the bottom line. We know that we need a media system in this moment that's built around the needs of our communities, not the needs of corporate giants. But community members are being sidelined in too many policy debates right now, while lobbyists and corporate influences are playing a leading role. As long as that's true, these conversations about the future of our local media system, these long changes that we're desperately working towards, will forever remain out of reach. That's why we need you, advocates, organizers, leaders in every issue area, to get active in this fight. Show up to public hearings, partner with local media in your community. Help tell the story of why trustworthy local journalism matters to your work and to the people that you're serving. If you want a place to plug into this fight, that's really what we're trying to provide at Free Press. With our national coalition, the Media Power Collaborative, we're building a movement to rebalance our media system and restore power to communities. To win this fight, we need more voices at the table, plain and simple. We're doing our best to build alliances between media leaders and community leaders. We're building the power we need to impact policy debates for the better. But we need your help. I really hope you'll check out what we're up to and you'll sign up for our email list at mediapowercollab.org. Again, that's mediapowercollab.org. I'll leave you with this for now, since I think I'm at my 5 minutes. I know local news policy is not going to be the #1 issue for many folks in this room, but I really encourage you to think of it as your second or third issue, because we know the local news shapes every aspect of our ability to create change and connect with one another. If we want a media system that serves our democracy, not just powerful, we all need to start showing up for it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. And so it's my job now to introduce Mimi Rosenberg, who we've already had the opportunity to hear speak a bit. Mimi is going to give us a presentation. So let me just say that she's been a WBAI producer and host since 1968. She currently co-produces 2 weekly programs, which we invite you to listen to. You can get it on the net. Building Bridges, Your Community and Labor Report is one program she does, and another program, we wonder how does Mimi have time to do all of this, but she does an excellent program. Second program called Equal Rights and Justice. She has served on WBAI's local advisory board and written papers on community media. She is also a longtime lawyer with the Legal Aid Society. serving low-income and migrant clients. In addition, she is an activist in many movements for social justice, anti-racism, and liberation. So I give you Mimi Rosenberg.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that gracious and kind introduction. And greetings to all of you, you beautiful people. I can just see it in my mind's eye. We who organized this workshop carry the name of Ida B. Wells as a banner, a woman of African ancestry, born into slavery. She stood unflinching against the lynch mobs, exposed the machinery of white supremacy, and demanded justice with pen and fire. Today, as a fascist regime tightens its grip on all branches of power, we rise in her tradition, knowing, as Malcolm taught, that the media can shape the world's view of us, and so must be wielded by us. Oppressed by the people, for the people, must tell the stories of those who built the wealth, yet remained shackled by the system. And in doing so, it educates, agitates, and organizes toward a future of equality and liberation. It must. Now, we gather here today as concerned individuals to grow a coalition, united in determination to resist the escalating suppression of political expression on the page, through the airwaves, and across the digital commons. In every language of resistance, we speak truth from below, building a media that is not just a mirror, but a megaphone for the people. Ours is a collective voice rising to educate and agitate and organize until every story serves liberation, not domination. We defend political speech that uplifts weapons for justice, not shields for oppression. With blood, sweat, and tears, we the people have fought to uncover the truth of America's past, from indigenous genocide and slavery to those who built careers on the backs of scapegoated immigrants, mischaracterized for power, profit, and gain. That's why independent media matters, to expose the lies, amplify truth from below, and make communication a tool of liberation, not domination. Similarly, the oppression of women, queer, and trans communities is deeply woven into the fabric of this society, and their stories, too often silenced or distorted, must be told by a media that serves the people, because only through truth-telling and through a historic contextual lens from the margins, can the beginning to dismantle the systems that erase us occur. And that's exactly what Trump is trying to do: erase, bury, and turn back. From book bans and curriculum rollbacks to ideological targeting and attempted deportation, firings and expulsions of pro-Palestinian campus activists, we are witnessing a coordinated effort to silence dissent and coerce media into self-censorship. Increasingly, these efforts are accompanied by false accusations of anti-Semitism or claims of reverse discrimination and red baiting to discredit movements for justice and obscure the real issues at stake. At its core, this is about controlling public information to prevent people from accessing the knowledge to inform the theory for organizing for transformative change. These are not new assaults, however. They are part of a long and dangerous tradition. Recall, we started with Ida B. Wells, who, for her journalism, her truth telling, had her newspaper office destroyed by a mob and was forced into exile. But she never stopped speaking. Now, from the Alien and Sedition Acts to the Patriot Act, the U.S. has a long history of suppressing dissent and targeting truth tellers. Anti-war voices like Eugene V. Debs, civil rights and Black power leaders under COINTELPRO, and whistleblowers like Daniel Ellsberg, Chelsea Manning, and Julian Assange have all faced state repression. Journalists exposing government abuse from Vietnam to the CIA's role in drug trafficking have been silenced, surveilled, or discredited. Most recently, activists like the Uhuru 3, Black socialist activists and their supporters were indicted for conspiracy to act as agents of a foreign government, a politically motivated attack meant to chill radical speech, delegitimize Black-led movements, and reassert state control over narratives that challenge U.S. empire. The pattern is clear. When truth threatens power, repression follows. Moreover, according to the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate, as of May 2025, at least 212 Palestinian journalists have been targeted and killed since the start of the Israeli assault on Gaza on October 7, 2023. And it's part of a deliberate policy aimed at silencing Palestinian voices and erasing the narrative of the oppressed. From the Alien and Sedition Acts to McCarthy-era blacklists and the FBI's COINTELPRO, the U.S. government has long suppressed dissent. After 9/11, expanded surveillance chilled political speech, especially among Muslims and anti-war activists. But two presidents in particular stand out for their aggressive campaigns against the media. Richard Nixon and Donald Trump, felon number 47. In the 70s, Nixon saw the press as an enemy. He wiretapped journalists. He kept an enemies list, sound familiar, that included reporters and used the IRS to harass them. He banned critical journalists from the White House and ordered aides to plant smear stories. He even changed the language, referring to the media, instead of the press, to make it sound more sinister. And when the New York Times and Washington Post even published the Pentagon Papers exposing lies about the Vietnam War, Nixon tried to stop them in court. The message was clear: dissent would be punished. Fast forward to Trump and his Project 2025 blueprint for authoritarian rule, designed to consolidate power, dismantle democratic institutions, and replace civil service with political loyalty, echoing the core tenets of fascism, and which actually targets the Pacifica network. He didn't need secret wiretaps. He had Twitter. He used it to attack journalists by name, to spread disinformation, and to rally his base against the press. He called the media the enemy of the people, a phrase with authoritarian roots. He rooted press credentials, he revoked them, threatened to change libel laws, and commenced to defund public media, gutting NPR, PBS, and community voices to silence dissent and tighten control, and has floated the FCC pulling broadcast license from critical networks. Why do they fear a free press? Finally, because truth disrupts control. It exposes what power hides, amplifies voices they'd rather silence, and demands answers they wouldn't give. So they smear, censor, and intimidate, hoping fear will do what force cannot. A free press gives voice to the voiceless. It amplifies protest. It challenges injustice. And the suppression of dissent, protest, and press freedom is escalating. Witness Ramsaya Osterk, the Tufts University PhD student who was abducted by mass federal authorities and faces deportation after writing a single op-ed on the killing of Palestine. Now, this forum isn't just a witness to repression, it's a call to rise. We're not here to take notes on injustice. We're here to organize, to resist, and to transform. But let's be honest, media institutions, even our beloved Pacifica network, haven't just been attacked from the outside. They've been weakened from within by a lack of diversity, democratic leadership, and deep community roots. And if we want media that can fight back, it must be built by those who have been silenced the longest. It must be bold, inclusive, and unafraid. It must educate, agitate, and organize. So you see, we're not just defending press freedom, we're reimagining it. We're building a coalition with two urgent goals: a rapid response network to defend political speech and press freedom under attack, a long-term vision as well for media that's democratic, community-powered, and led by those historically pushed to the margins. Finally, we reject neutrality. Media is a weapon, and we choose to wield it for justice. This is about liberation, not legacy. We're not here to replicate old hierarchies. We're here to build something new, something fierce, something ours. So let's build the media movement we deserve. So please get on board and join us at our next organizing meeting, July 11th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the media we deserve towards the end of that beautiful community that Martin Luther King held out as what we strive for. And I thank you for listening and for being at this workshop, because what happens with media happens with every one of the issues that we care about. It is its collective voice. So thank you so much. And I'll leave it to Bob or Stahamili to give you the email address that you can reach out to join us on July 11th. Thank you. Thank you, my dear siblings.
Thank you, Mimi Rosenberg, for that really rousing presentation. Really gives us our marching orders. And we will give those details a little bit later in the program, but right now we're thrilled to introduce our keynote speaker. We're honored that Mumia Abu-Jamal recorded a special message just for this workshop earlier this week. And so let me just give you a quick background on him for those who may not know his history as a journalist. He's one of the country's longest held political prisoners, held now for 43 years, and one of its most brilliant journalists. In 1981, he was shot, nearly killed, convicted of murdering a Philadelphia police officer, and sentenced to death, partly based on his writings as a teenage member of the Black Panther Party. Mumia has insisted on his innocence. His conviction came in a trial that Amnesty International showed extensive evidence of prosecutorial, judicial, and police misconduct, and effectively stripped him of any meaningful legal representation in violation of international legal standards. He is now serving life without parole after his death sentence was ruled unconstitutional. In the late 1970s, Mumia Abu-Jamal worked as a reporter for several Pennsylvania radio stations, including WUHY, now called WHYY, which was the NPR flagship station. And he filed nationally for NPR's All Things Considered and The Morning Report, and won numerous journalism awards. In 1981, he was elected president of the Association of Black Journalists in Philadelphia. For 30 years from his prison cell, Mumia has produced radio and print commentaries on media, criminal justice, and a wide range of global and national issues. He's written or edited 15 books while behind bars, the most recent of which is the co-edited anthology Beneath the Mountain, an Anti-Prison Reader. He is now finishing his PhD at UC Santa Cruz about the renowned theoretician and advocate of anti-colonial revolution, Martinican Dr. Frantz Fanon. Especially relevant to this workshop is that in 1994, NPR signed a contract with him for monthly commentaries on criminal justice, not including his own case. When right-wing Congress members found out and threatened NPR's funding, they caved immediately and canceled his contract. But WBAI and other Pacifica stations picked up the slack and have continually broadcast his commentaries produced by the platform for voices of incarcerated people known as Prison Radio or prisonradio.org, which is co-led by the dedicated Noel Hanrahan, who is also on Mumia's legal team. Later in the 1990s, the Pennsylvania legislature passed a law clearly aimed at Mumia, but applying to all incarcerated people that's still on the books today, barring journalists from bringing recording equipment into prison visits. That's how powerful Mumia's voice is. You can find more about his life and links to his writings at prisonradio.org. And it's important to say that it's largely the corporate media with their constant pro-police reporting on his case and many others and putting forward lies that has built the public support to keep Mumia locked up. So much so that even liberal prosecutor Larry Krasner, who has ended the wrongful incarceration of other people in Pennsylvania, because of their situation in Philadelphia, where he's the DA, he's continued to fight any efforts to reopen Mumia's case in court. So for more information on the campaign that's now seeking proper healthcare and nutrition, often denied to him and many others, for the 71-year-old man who has had open heart surgery in 2021, and to contact Governor Josh Shapiro to support executive clemency for Mumia and all elderly Pennsylvania prisoners, visit prisonradio.org. And today on the table, there's a flyer about the amazing phone interview he granted me last fall on LGBTQ issues. And so please pick one of those up. So now we'll hear from Brother Mumia Abu-Jamal. And this is only audio because of prison restrictions, no video.
Friends, my brothers, my colleagues, my dear comrades. When we think about journalism, we have to erase as many ideas as we acquire. Why? Because in many ways, unless we really research this issue historically, we have false ideas, we have false beliefs, and we have false recollections of what journalism really means in America. I speak historically, of course, and I speak from a history of what the FBI called news friendly. That was their code speech for journalists who worked for them, as opposed to working for their readers and their customers and the public. These were people who wrote in their columns or in their articles rumor and innuendo and slurs and insults against members and supporters of any group that the FBI opposed. For example, the Black Panther Party. In my book, we want freedom of life in the party. I write about these news trends. But guess what? They were never friendly to the people who were protesting the system of white supremacy and oppression and government nuisance and subversion of freedom. In the franchise hotel, I write about professors who lost their jobs, teachers who lost their jobs, average workers who learned that the FBI visited their jobs and got them fired. These people were not people committing crimes. They were people who opposed how the government was doing what it did every day. And we're talking about decades ago. And there are dozens and dozens and hundreds and thousands of such people. This in a society that claims that there is freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to speak, to think, and to let others know.
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
About the wrongs supported or done by the government of the United States. I write that the FBI was, in essence, a political police because they served a political function. And they treated Americans, people born in the United States of America, whether they were black, whether they were women, whether they were supporters of workers' rights, whether they were communists, whether they were feminists, or whether they opposed the war. They treated these people as if they were enemies of the state instead of enemies of the government entire. You can oppose what the government does. That is supposedly your right. But if you get fired for that, if they are supporting rumors in the media that lead to people being divorced, or worse, think about Fred Hampton sleeping in his bed in December of 1969 when the FBI supported a raid on his apartment, ostensibly for weapons, and they killed the man in his sleep, in his bed, with his wife. We forget that, don't we? That's pretty convenient. And we like to think that the excesses of the government today.
This is a call from
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Are something quite extraordinary. We cannot ever forget what happened in this country for years, for decades, against people who spoke out against the government or who organized against this state. There was a saying by a deputy director of the FBI about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That guy, William Sullivan was his name, said that King was the most dangerous Negro in America. Can you imagine? So when we talk about journalism and we talk about the mores of journalism, we cannot and should not forget what happened in this country. We're looking at, right now, a new era in journalism, right? In some ways, it's the democratization of journalism. By that I mean that every person who has a cell phone can perform the function of a journalist without any special training. All he or she has to do is point and record. We saw that in the George Floyd case. A 17-year-old young lady turned her phone on and recorded that injustice. And you have to know, if this 17-year-old had not done that, then that whole situation would have been reported differently. Because we would not know anything other than what the state, the government, the police wanted us to know. We live in a new era. But we cannot forget the errors, ERRORS, the errors of the past. In this new era, we have to think about journalism differently now. It is a citizen's right to use their phones to record that what they wish to record, that what the state does every day and usually goes unrecorded because their cameras malfunction or they were never turned on. So the people have to think about journalism differently, not as a profession, but as something that citizens do and people do every day to record what the state is doing to them. The other thing is this. When I talked about COINTELPRO, these were secret files, remember? A group of very young people in Media, Pennsylvania, raided an FBI storage house and seized those documents and sent them to reporters all across the country. And in many ways, they changed people's minds about what was happening in their name by the FBI. I talked about the FBI's news friendlies, but guess what? In every major newspaper in America, especially if they have a foreign desk or a foreign affairs department, there is usually an approved reporter who sits in that department, and that person is really working for the CIA, because being a journalist is a perfect cover for spies. They have a byline usually, they have journalistic ID, and they say they represent a newspaper. They don't say they represent the government, but in many ways they do. And just like you had news friendlies, you have CIA people who are listening to what's happening in newsrooms and using their place in journalistic systems to transfer information to readers who really have no deep knowledge of who they're reading. So journalism is not what it used to be. But let's not be foolish, and let's not paint it as if it was a perfect picture. It never was, and it never will be. It's a business, it's an industry, and it's always in transition. We do live in a new era because of the transformation of technology. But how that thing is used is also important. I rarely use the term social media. People I talk to are aware. When I discuss it, I say anti-social media. And that's because of its effect on young people and how young people are deeply harmed by what they hear and what they see on anti-social media. And that, again, is because industry is pushing people to the limits to make more money. I don't know if journalism will succeed in this new era. I know that it has to be transformed from a voice, print, and a scribe for those in power, and begin reflecting the ideas of average people. People should be the power in a democracy, not politicians, not the CIA, not the FBI, not then and not now. Journalism has to become the voice of the people. If not, it, like all institutions, will fade away. Already, very few young people read newspapers today. Very few Americans read books. It's not popular anymore. That may change, but it will only change if the substance of newspapers and books begins to make sense again to people who read. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your comments. I even thank you for your criticisms. With love, not fear. This is Mumia. My friend, my brother, my colleague,
Oh, sorry.
my dear colleague. When we think about journalism, we have to erase as many ideas as we acquire.
I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing it again. It's like, yeah, we just said, we need to make comments like the end that said free Mumia. It's always so, moving to hear his voice, hear his comments. Free Mumia, free Mumia. Hopefully we can take inspiration from Mumia's clarion calls and begin the work of building a coalition to fight for freedom, for a free press, and for press freedom against censorship and against restrictions and punishment of those who exercise their right to political speech. We can predict that the onslaught will only intensify in the coming months. We want to ask you to sort through your mental contacts lists of organizations and individuals who might be interested in such a campaign. This should go well beyond the people directly making media or working as reporters. As Mumia said, we all have that capability of doing the reporting. We think everyone concerned with social justice and working to bring it about has an interest in safeguarding our basic rights to a free press and free speech.
One very important part of our work will be responding in real time to attacks on political speech, freedom of the press, and censorship, particularly in cases where there are not large and well-funded networks that are doing that work already. In this country, Palestine, and elsewhere, journalists have been imprisoned, threatened, and even killed. And we saw some of those being shot in LA a couple of weeks ago in the uprising there. Newspapers and TV programs have been forcibly toned down, if not censored, in their calls for social justice, including student newspapers and radio stations and prisoner-directed media outlets. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, is investigating various radio and TV stations with the implicit threat to suspend, revoke, or refuse to renew their broadcast licenses. Immigrants have been issued deportation orders because of their statements to the media. New laws have been pushed through Congress that will make it easier than it already is to bring civil and even criminal charges against individuals and organizations, including media outlets, that are falsely charged with quote unquote aiding terrorism or quote anti-Semitism. We're now in a full-fledged 21st century Red Scare with only different scare words. Many other movements have taught us a variety of tactics for fighting back. Email and phone campaigns, letters to Congress, corporations, the university administrations, seeking media coverage, writing op-ed pieces, and using, as Mumia said, our own self-created media to get the word out. And then, of course, there's always demonstrations and nonviolent direct actions targeting those attacking our rights. For example, the FCC has 15 regional offices around the country. Think about that. We want to be ready to respond when others have not or cannot. Without a doubt, the number of attacks will multiply, and so our fledgling Ida B. Wells Media Defense Coalition will only have the capacity to respond to the extent we have broad community involvement. We invite you to enhance our numbers and help us outreach to bring more forces to this crucial battle for free expression.
So now we very much want to hear from you. We've come up with a couple of questions that would be most useful. We want to hear what your comments are. Some of the questions that we had come up with and ask you to respond quickly is what ideas or how to build a rapid response network. So if anyone, we'll give a couple of seconds for people to think about that, and then, we'll move around the room and ask people to comment. Which groups and individuals can you approach locally? about supporting our coalition. So we're trying to build a coalition here, okay? And how can grassroots media continue to support student groups and others, organizations around exercising their free speech and other free speeches? Because we understand that systems are getting shut down, right? And so we got to do this independently. Do you want to say a few words, or shall we just?
No,
start
let's
here?
open it up. We're
Let's open it
sorry
up.
this is so late. There's unexpected glitches, but please, if you can come up to the mic, because we're recording this. Now, if you don't want to be recorded, that's fine. You know, we can talk more, you know, informally after this ends. But if you're willing to be recorded so this can be broadcast after this date, please come up to the mic, or actually Samili will bring you up. Yeah, great. Thank you, Sami.
Any comments, you know?
Or questions.
Or questions, yeah, we'll definitely take questions of anything you've heard today. Something we weren't clear about. Comments? So quiet.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, I think something that I think about, I have a lot of cousins and a little sister. In my family, we have like an older set of cousins that were like 15 years older than the new set that we say came in. And I think about just their media literacy and how like much they do get from social media, and that impact on them, and that some things have opened up like more access, you know, but then there are other things where, you know, I'll talk to my younger cousins and they will be so adamant about things that I'm like, I have like at least 3 books on my bookshelf that can tell you no, like that's what you're speaking, saying, like that's disproven, like that, I don't know where that theory came from, but they like believe it so much because they've heard it from social media, and it's like, here I am, like their blood cousin, and I'm like, no, like I'm trying to tell you this, but that grasp that they trust those strangers so much more than they do like somebody that, you know, they've known and they know does this for too. So that's what comes to my mind, is like just that media literacy, and like, dang, how did you fall for that, you know?
I think you raised, yeah, I think, good point. I think you raised a good point, because I mean, I have a friend who's very involved in grassroots organizing around Palestine for years and years and years. And so she's decided now she has to work with her family. So she's going home and she's working with her family members. That's where she's organizing. So you raised a good point, something we have to think about. You know, actually, who we gonna work with? Sometimes it's just that simple. Just your cousins, you know, family members, etc. Hi. Hello. Okay, y'all can hear me thinking that. Okay, cool. So I work with young people from ages 15 to 35. The primary demographic I fall in is like 16 to 24. And we primarily use social media. So it's funny that we're having this discussion. I really appreciate it. But one of the things that I've been trying to understand is how to bridge the gap from the other direction. It's like my young people, we use social media not only to research, but we also use it to get young people more involved in organizing. Like we have a social justice influencer fund where we fund people to make content around social issues that they are impacted by, because we believe that we want to populate the narrative by marginalized people. But I've been trying to figure out how to get connected to more traditional media like radio, like visual, and there's been a constant, it seems like that conversation struggle moving forward, because there is this gap that we are articulating about understanding between those generations, and it seems like that conversation gets repeated versus the coalition gets made intergenerational. And I'm really trying to figure out, what does it look like to have both and to be accountability for each other? Because I agree, one of the things that is a constant part of my programming, specifically with my young men, is that they are very vulnerable to bad opinions.
And I find myself having to maintenance that a lot. Even if it's just like sticking around for like an extra 30 minutes or hours, having to talk to them about like, this is probably why you shouldn't say that. But I've realized that it's very similar to what my generation went through when it came to what type of people we hung around. As far as like, if your parents don't validate a certain belief, you're more likely to hang around a certain person who's probably better for you. So what I realized is that there's this pattern of looking to be validated in a very specific way, and we're not doing a good job at that. So they're outsourcing that to bad people. And that makes me think a lot about, again, what can we be doing to console each other generationally? So they don't have to go to people who are going to manipulate that insecurity that they're looking at us for. Because I can't validate a Black man because I'm not a Black man. That's not how I identify, but I know that they are looking for a certain type of archetype that they're supposed to fit into. And there's not other Black men who are reaching back to them saying, hey, let's facilitate this opinion through good dialogue. It's manipulative, like rich or well-off Black men who are like, you know what, that lack of helping you, you can pervert it to make you money. So I just want us to like, I would love to join the coalition, but I want it to be a dialogue about what are we doing to reach towards each other as we're identifying the gaps in both of our approaches to media. So yeah.
So I don't know if when you came in, you saw the sign up sheet, so hopefully you, please put your, information there, because we will definitely be in touch. And we want to continue the dialogue with you around this particular issue, especially as well as the regular. You got something to say? You don't want to talk to us? Well, it is. All right, here we go. My question is just to ask, where you located? Okay. All right, Jackson. All right. We all love you, right? We love the work that you're doing in Jackson.
One of the things that I really liked that Maria said was about the need to make media and press that's relatable to other people. That's what it means to have media at the press. I come from Arizona, I'm a university person, and in the United States as a whole, how we are making the decisions on how we're going to make a public information, they base it off the fourth grade reading level, because that's where most adults are reading at, not in the United States. But in Arizona, it's even worse, because the literacy crisis is that bad. People being graduated out of high school without actually having full reading comprehension skills. So when we're talking about like media and having good information, specifically, people that talk about social justice, use a lot of terms that people generally don't know, but also like people will even have a harder time knowing if you don't know the regular terms that you're doing on a reading comprehension. So I really like the importance of talking about issues that are relatable. When I work with my family, I don't be like it's huge empire complex of terrorism, it's how you're dealing with it, it's how that's happened. And I remember having a recent conversation around sex work and the criminalization of sex work, right? And from fears of criminalization of sex work, and here's why those ladies are all very self-governed. What they're doing that and all that, and how that starts to manifest for them. At the end of the country, they all know that. And that completely changed their perspective around sex work. Because of that, they felt lost a little conversation, and she's breaking that down about it.
So let me just ask you a quick question before we move on. So what are your suggestions around how do we reach that demographic?
I think it's a combination of, I don't have all the, I don't know, but there's some things that I've seen that help a lot is like, for people that do not spiritual organizing, really deeply when you're having relationships and you're having conversations with people you've been working with, having a moment to also always use political education, not in the form of, not always in the form of workshops, but sometimes in the form of just conversation. And just sitting on a daily basis. And then when it comes to like media, how does if you, one thing we're making our brochures for the government program is like we're looking at it and reading it, but then we're also gonna have it really ready with some of our friends at the education and, like making it look like, oh, this, if you read this, if a child reads this, really understand it. And like having some of that other eye to like confirm that, okay, this, I think this will work a lot, but we're working with connected with all, like I love like the policy concept of like having different kinds of people do different things, but communicate that it all ends up to the public and all, you know, easy for us to do.
Go ahead. Samuel, can I just say something before anyone else has to leave? Just to remind you that we're doing an orientation on Zoom for anyone who wants to get involved or even just learn more about our coalition on Friday, July 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So you can either use the QR code on this flyer on the table, or you can email us at show, SHOW, at outfm.org. And also don't forget about our workshop, our affinity group tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Which we're still waiting for the room number, but we can have more concrete dialogue about how to move this coalition forward. So continue. Thank you for all your great comments, and we want to hear all of them. As long as you have, we have the time. So please continue.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was so excited to come to this space. I am a community organizer in Minneapolis, and I've been living in Minneapolis the last 10 years, and I've seen a lot of huge stories come out of our city. I moved there just before the murder of Jamal Clark, which was a major police murder that led to a successful week-long occupation outside of Minneapolis 4th Police Precinct. A story that wasn't really told. I only knew about it because I was a coffee shop clerk, and people who were there every night were telling me about it. And then that's how I ended up following like local just folks who were posting online, who have since become a node of sorts of community journalists in our neighborhood. So then when the uprisings came in 2020, the cleave of reality of seeing what was right there in front of my eyes at the 3rd precinct as we were there for 3 days, just demanding any police accountability, any charges be brought, and then for daring to ask that, tear gas was shot at us. But yet, with everyone was framed as nasty, brutish people trying to take down the police. And what I saw was community journalists doing this work, showing what was actually happening. And that story was taken away from those police narratives. For a few bright, beautiful days, it was taken away from them. And we got to see that tens of thousands of people stood up and said, violence is unacceptable, and we will take away your police force. If that's what it takes to finally get some accountability. But now, this last week, also in Minneapolis, we had the assassination of our former Speaker of the House. We're very close with folks in my community. And I went to an ICE raid, community rally when I showed up with tanks, and I ended up finding myself for the first time in the role of a community journalist, because I noticed in my capacity as a barricade organizer, a very fascist looking patch on one of the ICE agents, and I reported it to members of the press. But now I'm dealing with something I've never had to think about, which is something that probably most journalists have to think about all the time, which is my name is now attached to this. It's now in all these places. And some people who have proven themselves to be very violent are the subject of what I have exposed. And it's a frightening thing. I deeply admire everyone who does this type of work day in and day out. And very excited to be involved in this space so I can learn for how to navigate that. Because every time I listen to somebody, I learn so much. So thank you all for being in this space.
Thank you for your comments. I guess I wanted to So back here and yourself, okay, in particular, I think the stuff that you're talking about, yeah, I can. The stuff that you're talking about, it's actually very, important, because we're trying to work with its change. Okay, so while I agree very much with Mumia, Abu Jamal, is it social media? No, I don't think so. Okay, I agree, but it has changed and it has become the main gathering place for a lot of our young people in particular. This is what, I got two grandsons. They spend all their time on them cell phones, playing these games and da. So, and that's just a fact. I think I'm struck by a couple of things. One of which is, I grew up, in the 50s. The magazines in the Black community, CPB magazine, which a lot of people don't remember, but it was a little tiny magazine. Jet magazine, okay, like basically, and then later Ebony, because Ebony was the little step up, okay. But the point of these magazines, the magazines created gathering places. So the Black community gathered in those places. That's what Ida B. Wells did with that newspaper. The newspaper was a gathering place, wasn't just the barbershop, wasn't just the church, okay, it was the gathering place. And that's what we're dealing with now. So what are the gathering places for our young people? And we need to acknowledge that. And we need to acknowledge that they don't use it in the same way, okay? So that whole concept of influencers, I mean, it's bizarre to me, but this has become one of their gathering places. So my question is, how do we begin to kind of influence some of the influencers? Okay, because that's what I think we need to actually talk about also. How do we actually start to make connections to some of the young people who are comfortable, who are doing this work? They're out there. How do we do this? How do we, I agree with Brother when he's saying, the cell phone, the democratization of journalism. But I also think you're absolutely right. That actually can put you in a very strange, and crazy place. Okay, the sister who did that stuff around George Floyd, it can put you in a strange place. So again, the media coalition, will help us figure out if we're going to take this step, how do we also offer a certain amount of protection? We need to push the ideas, the progressive stuff, the analysis, but we need to protect at the same time. And I want to point out one more thing. I saw a TV show. I was amazed. But they were looking at the story of Vietnam, 5 parts on, and the heart of it was they were looking at the different role that journalism played, not the folks who sat in Vietnam being fed the story, but the folks who went out there and they were following the troops on the ground, who were looking at dead bodies, who were recording that stuff, who were pushing it. And then the role, the connection that was made between their telling the truth and the anti-war analysis back in. We need leadership also, so that, because we got people who will record, but then help us understand what you're recording. Okay, so it's like it just feels a lot of complication, but I think we can. I really do think we can. No, sorry, thank you, appreciate it. Yes. I mean, we might need to get back to some consciousness raising. So we might have to do it online, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your work today, gentlemen.
Thank you for coming. Please sign the list.
I want to 2 comments. It just made me think about Now you get it. Yeah, I was just thinking about something that, so my own journey into journalism, I'm somebody who was a career changer. I had a different type of work. I was in nonprofits. I was doing international development work, and I knew that I wanted to like get into storytelling. And I started in Chicago. I'm from Atlanta, but I was in Chicago for college and then started my career there and changed careers there. But Chicago had a really dynamic journalism community, not just, and I'm not even talking about like the corporate folks, but I'm talking about like community folks and organizing folks. So that's kind of how I got into journalism. And I started at an organization called CPB, and something that you mentioned, your comment made me think about them and like how they started. They basically were paying people, you know, they set up a fellowship and they paid people to train to learn how to do journalism in their communities. And that's kind of how I came into it. So, which is very different than like going to a school and paying tuition to like learn, right? So they call them, well, they're known as the journalism school of the streets. But anyway, and I love it. So it made me think about that because they've had also like a lot of different programming. There'd be like public newsrooms where like after there's a cohort that does like some reporting for like less than 12 weeks, they invite the public to a space and they just host like, you know, where folks can like learn about and talk about and be kind of like in that like feedback loop about what the reporting was about, how they kind of like went about things, and that kind of thing. So it made me think about different models of tapping into like maybe community journalism. If you're trying to bridge content, like you know, you being in a space where you're helping to guide young people, and they're already like tech savvy and they're able to make content, that could be sort of that model or that sort of like there could be like, all right, we're gonna structure it around like community news, like what's important to you, what's important to you folks in your age group or your community, your families, and like that's a way that they can like learn those types of skills because they already got like the tech stuff, you know. And it could just, I could just see, I was like, I could just see it. And I myself is somebody who was, the reason why I ended up in journalism is because I decided not to get a PhD, because all my friends are doctors, but I wanted to be able to connect with people, everyday people, right? I wanted like my work to be able to connect with folks like my grandmother who's 99 years old and she has a third grade education, but she's from South Carolina and obviously Jim Crow, right? And what prompted me also, so I'm a documentary filmmaker also, after some time in Chicago doing journalism work, I was like, I wanted to like focus more on visual storytelling, which sent me to the Bay Area. I was there for grad school, came back because I wanted to be here to do that work. But I think for you, when you talked about like literacy, issues around literacy, that kind of, it made me think about why I wanted to go into documentary filmmaking. Because some people are just like visual learners. Like, of course, we need like, you know, people to reach and literacy, and that's important. But I was also thinking about how at some point, so many cultures of people come from oral traditions also. And it wasn't like that they were not illiterate per se, right? But like their societies were deeply rooted in oral traditions. And I think maybe like there's a way, definitely as somebody who makes film and media, it's a lot of writers involved too. So I can see like how if maybe tapping into the ways that people already access or like engage with media, if it's a visual thing, then like kind of meeting them where they are and like working on those skills because, and also like just I'm somebody who does freelance work here. People always say like, oh, like the organizations, they always say our visual work is so much better, you know, online. You know, people aren't reading as much, right? Like I write too, but I also like do production work. And like people, they see it, they're accessing it on their phones. If they're engaging with it in a different way, they're still able to get like important things that they need to get from it. So I think that's probably also another way that like those gaps can be kind of closed or bridged. And I think yeah, that's all. That's all. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's, thank you. You have something else you want to comment?
I'll
We're gonna close it up.
Yeah. I think I can put it in 20 seconds.
Together.
Okay. One, there's, from Project Censored and the Media Revolution Collective, they've got this book, The Media and Me, critical media literacy, for young people. I've been using it in some of my organizing and my combating hate capacity, realizing what's the main vector that people are becoming extremists. It's these gizmos in our hands. Really, really good. And I found it's really good for all ages, again, because most people we're not exercising our brains all the time. And even when we work in, let's say, a very advanced field, we're only going to really know how to read that specific language, legalese if you're a lawyer, chemical readouts if you work in chemistry. But if you don't read other things, you're not going to be exercising that as much. So it's actually really, really great regardless of age, I found. Yeah, The Media and Me. But then I guess I went more than 20 seconds. But the other thing is what you were describing for today's literacy, like cascading literacy crises, not just like literacy of the written word, but literacy of the media that we consume. It makes me think of SNP's literacy projects, but adapting them for now in our 21st century conditions, where it's not just one of the key importances for the literacy campaigns was so people could then go and navigate through the systems of power around them, which required legalese, it required some measure of history, but now it requires these gizmos. So we have to incorporate that into our literacy analysis when we bring it in spaces. So thank you so much.
Even though I work mainly with a legacy media outlet, we still do understand that. And then we have to bring in the people that do know how to work this, these platforms, and then let them do what they do, and not stand over them and say, do it by them. I think that's a big issue around why they feel acceptance, some of the points that you brought, and why it's acceptable to certain other elements and not to us, because we still want to control it. And that's a hard thing to realize, and it's very hard. And all of the legacy organizations in the 60s and 70s are all really grappling with that issue. So, are we ready to wrap up, Bob?
Yeah, much as we hate to cut this short, because this has been a really rich dialogue, and we so appreciate all of you who contributed. We do have to kind of make way for other activities. So we just want to thank all of you, but also the people who helped prepare this workshop. Besides Sahamili and myself, Mimi Rosenberg, John Riley, Peggy Henkel-Wolf, and other members of the Ida B. Wells Media Coalition nationwide, and particular kudos to John Riley for extraordinary work to arrange the complicated and, as you saw, difficult audio-visual connections to make today happen. So thank you to our team, and thank you to all of you. And please stick around and chat more informally. And please come tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for the follow-up kind of practical session. I'm sorry, to post what?
Are you gonna, can you send the update, can you update, tomorrow's, thing on the app?
You mean update the room number? I'm
Whenever
not
you
sure
get
what
the
you're
room number,
asking.
yeah.
The affinity group?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the conference organizers are gonna give us all the room numbers on that we've.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't know when, but hopefully tonight.
Okay.
Or tomorrow morning.
I think they do it in the morning.
Oh, okay, very good.
What's gonna be called?
I'm sorry?
What's it gonna be called?
Oh, sure, it's,
It's already on the.
it's already, I'll show it to you.
On the agenda, you can see that what's coming. But where it's actually gonna be.
See, yeah, you can turn it off. I'll turn the, recording.
I'll take it too. Oh, no pressure. I'll make sure you're okay.
Oh, thank you, Elise. Thank you.
No, whatever I can do,
You were wonderful. You really, like, I was kind of freezing because it's all kind of new. It's a lot.
So you all are doing this tomorrow night at 8, right? So I went to my.
Appreciate you letting me just sit here
my
and stuff. I appreciate that.
Okay,
And just.
yeah.
Thank you.
And where are you from?
Phoenix.
Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix,
Oh,
Arizona.
how great.
Yeah, I was born and raised there. I organized with Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro. We started it in 2017, just like, have a centered space for Black folks to work on liberation work. But immediately got, calls from families and communities that were affected by police violence. So all of our work is led by them and our holistic approach to build liberation that is like both building the world we want to live in, and dealing with harm reduction and helping folks.
Right.
It was cool stuff. So we've had multiple times where we've been misrepresented in media or have had news reporters like distort things about us. But also at the same time, in 2020, our protesters were arrested. Some of our protesters were arrested. And the government was going to charge legal charges on Black groups.
They wanted to bring what charges?
Gang charges on them.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's what all those gang bills, they're not good bills.
They're bad bills.
The whole, it's a lot of, they have so many tools and they turn around things that, maybe were for one purpose and then they invert it. Like even hate crimes legislation has been used against people that were the targets of
hate crimes. We were able to use a big media push and campaign that put so much pressure that we were able to release all the funds and get the gang charges dropped. Really helpful because if our group was called a gang, then other Black groups around the country could also be called a gang.
Right.
But that was why, like some of the things like media is really helpful. Like even with like domestic violence, so many ways in which the laws are around help domestic violence. Actually just end up hurting the victims more. They don't help victims. There's a bill in Arizona. There's a huge problem with trafficking in Arizona. Sex trafficking. I also think the real issue is labor trafficking, which is really big globally and in Arizona. And sex trafficking is really bad in Arizona, and it's usually done by government officials. But that always gets quieted. Like they'll have one article, another article that this government official got lost their job, and this one lost their job around funneling. But instead of addressing any of that, they just put a bill about, it was not really about, it was a proposition last that criminalizes people that do sex work. It elevates the criminal behavior of people that do sex work. But what ends up happening is that the people that are they're like, we're gonna get all the perpetrators. Like you're just gonna get the victims in jail, and then the perpetrators are gonna walk free. Because your perpetrators are a lot of them are your government officials, right? So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's well, and sex work is work of a kind, and it's like, people should have other choices, but you can't punish people for wanting to eat. And
you got to target poverty.
Absolutely. And you've got to make sure that people can get education to do the thing, that activates their heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting now. It seems like Arizona is kind of at this change point, but it sounds like it's really difficult there because you've still got like kind of right wing.
Our state government is all conservative, and it's all conservative.
Yeah.
Our local government is all conservative, and so there is a lot of
That's like being in the desert, child.
It's not any real, push or move that we can do locally because of that. So we try to change and move our cities, but then our cities will,
We're out of town.
our state government will attack the cookies that we put in our cities. And so navigating those challenges and also changing, even pushing some of these like Democrats that like will like kind of like they'll like kind of change their progressive ideas and like make it more palatable for conservatives, which in the end just like burn everything. Because the conservatives are never gonna vote for you. Huh? From Tucson? Raul from Tucson?
Yeah.
Came here because we are putting together.
He's very loved in Tucson. I haven't seen too much. I'm from Phoenix, so our candidate that we put up used to be a congressional member, now he's senator. Ruben Gallego. He's on everybody's nerves because it's always like teetering on this like I'm not all the way progressive, but I'm sort of conservative. And it's a waste of everybody's time.
So
He's a U.S. senator now.
centrist,
Yeah,
opportunism.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're all opportunists. So really navigating that Arizona, like, no, you're gonna say you're a progressive, go all the way and commit to it.
Yeah. I think that's the only way that change is gonna happen is like Democrats are never gonna be able to like win elections if they don't do something and stick to their guns. And do something for working people.
Look to your base and not try to like, oh, I'm gonna get those suburban white votes. They're never gonna vote for you.
And you know, as long as they work for the billionaires, you know, that's like a no-go. And it's a very bad sign that guy told the vice president of the Democratic, some kind of party apparatus that got booted. And they, you know, it's bad that they booted him because it's really clear. I mean, he was saying, you're a dino, you know, Democrat name only, you gotta go.
Right. So we have to. It's no point. There's no point into you wasting community resources and exploitation if you're just gonna sit there and not vote with your constituents what they want you to say.
So right
If
now.
you're just gonna vote for who you're just gonna vote for who's funding you, then just go work for that company and leave us alone. Get the paycheck directly in your W-2 instead of getting it indirectly in the government. But yeah, so that's kind of what we moved into. We're an abolitionist organization. So all of our politics is always gonna be on the left of the left. And that's the push of the pushing. So when it comes to like pushing people and making policies, I always tell whoever I'm in coalition or I'm working with people, because there's a bill that we want to end called felony murder, which is like you didn't commit the murder, but a murder happened when you were there, usually done by the police. And so you can get convicted for murder.
I know somebody who got a felony murder charge on was in jail for 70, a sentence of 75 years. Just got out recently, but
3 young people that are dealing with that. The prosecutor used felony murder to scare them into getting sentences, one of them longer than they've been alive. And so there was folks that are working in Washington State that are trying to get rid of theirs, and they originally had one that's kind of like ours, one that passed in Minnesota, that was like a total ban of it, and it to also affect retroactively people that got killed. Yeah. And then they changed it to be more palatable. It's like, oh, for only young people that got it and not everybody else. Well, like if you do that, then you actually end up making something that we have to dismantle later. Because now, if only a few people qualify, the state will just wait till they don't qualify anymore and then charge someone.
and then what?
And then charge them with felony murder. So it still continues. So those are those things, like there's no way for us to be palatable about the change we want. We just gotta make the change and push the people.
Well, I think Also, you know, the felony murder thing kind of exposes the contradiction of, you know, like say, you know, cutting off people's Medicaid benefits. You know, using that kind of logic, if somebody dies because of it,
Right.
why isn't that felony murder? Why isn't the whole Republican Party in jail?
Right.
Right, it's because it's.
Dick Cheney literally shot somebody in the face. Fine, so, yeah, but
Well, that's really great that you're working on these issues. And I think that this is the future, and if we don't make radical demands there, we're not gonna get into it. And so,
be unrelenting.
more power to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for all this. It's great.
Thank you for your help, Elsa.
No, it's not. I'll probably see you tomorrow.
All right, guys.
Fantastic, looking forward to it, Elsa. Let's see, I'm gonna figure out how to stop this. Okay.
You got that?
Do it. I guess.
Yeah, well.
Touch. Oh, well. Well, you all of them are signing, but. Well, we got all of everybody, but we got